Alright, and continuing on from our last video where I was beginning to paint some of the weights on that thumb. Looking back again, it would be good to, I'm going to sound like a hypocrite here, but going back on some of that thumb, it's good to do it all at once. I try to work bigger and then go down to smaller in terms of like getting all the weights assigned to all these bones. So the first part, I mean, we can do range of motion for solving for all three. I'll do it to all of them to make sure that I'm not, for instance, like when you rotate this, you're seeing influence being pulled from up on the jacket, the top of the wrist, and into that other finger. I'll do range of motion on all three to make sure that doesn't happen through all of these hands. Excuse me, for all of the digits of the finger of the hand. And then I'll go back through and do an ROM for each individual piece for the fingers and for other joints, for other bones that follow, because then you can actually get more precise painting down and have a little bit more control to make sure you know what the end look is going to be. So yeah, even too, if I select this joint, you'll notice there's actually keys that have been placed every 10 frames as we specified in the range of motion options. So let's go ahead and select the geometry. I'm going to go ahead and paint. Get down to the thumb. And what's so nice is that I'm only having to do half of this, so let's go ahead and I'll paint this in again. Now my paint is very high. I'm going back to using that style skin, but it's a very high influence because of opacity and value. My opacity I usually put that back to half, and then my value I'll go to about 0.75 maybe, and then I'll just dab a little bit smooth. I don't really need influence here, so I want to see if I can get rid of that. It will not let me, so I think I'm going to paint more of the hand in that area. I want to do add, not remove. So I was wondering why it wasn't changed color, and it was because it was in remove. So I'll dab around the edges around this opening of the glove, and then I'll just go ahead and smooth that out from there. I don't need any influence when it comes up to this higher area, so in the lower arm I want to give 100% influence on this jacket to that forearm bone. Now, because I'm having somewhat of a hard time trying to come in here, I mean, the paint tool does pretty well for making sure that it doesn't select all the other objects that are around that area. Almost done here with this forearm. Increase that brush size while holding B down and going through everything. A little bit more. Alright. Let's say like I wanted to now go back and I wanted to give some influence here to half and half between the lower arm and the hand. So what I could do is I could come in, I could select the vertex. I could do this. Actually, I'd rather go to edge select mode on your object. Double click, it will select that ring, and then hold down Control, right click, and then go down to vertices. That'll snap to all the vertices you had selected for those edges, and then from there, I'm going to go ahead and go to my component editor, and I notice I've already got a bunch of crazy influences coming from fingers that I don't need. So for this hand, I'm going to go ahead and go click on the first influence. I'll come down to here. It's not too many selected. Hold down shift and go to 0.5. That should half and half everything. Well, not for that case it didn't, so let's go ahead and split up more influence to the other. So let's go here. Let's put 100% to the hand, so we get it all zeroed out completely. So there's one. All right, now the hand controls 100% of this. So if we rotate it, you're gonna notice that. Go to object mode. Now when we rotate this hand, you're gonna notice it's gonna be a hard turn. It's 100% influenced by that joint. We want a half and half. We even notice that joint still influences a little bit up there on the arm. We're not going to worry about that just yet. So what I want to do is I want to get some of the lower arm influence into that hand. So go back to edge mode. And then what I'll do is I will go to vertices. And now because I'm only working on these verts, let me move that component editor out of the way so it's not in the way. Because I'm only on these verts, if I go into paint tool, the only thing I'm going to be able to paint on are those verts that I have selected. Everything else will not be affected whatsoever. And see, I clicked over it so it kind of came in. And that's what I want. Like, you can even do it to one vert and you have a little bit of influence come in, and that's what you want. Because when you go back to component editor, close that out, and then I'll reopen it so it refreshes itself. That pelvis showed up because I had the wrong tool selected. So go ahead and push down our alt trusty Control Z. Let's go to that lower arm. There we go. You can see it's completely black in that area because there's no influence. So let's just put down a little bit on one of the verts. There we go. Now component editor. Now we see that lower arm came in and all the verts that we have selected now have a little bit of influence that can be applied from this lower arm. So let's select the first one down at the bottom, and I accidentally had a finger slip there. There we go. My index finger hit the enter button. I did not mean to do that. Alright, again, click down, 0.5, and we are now half and half. So we got 50% control on both. And we can always increase it too from the component editor, or we can paint. But I'm going to go ahead and go back to object mode, and I just want to go ahead and just start painting again. Let's go back to that hand. Alright. Just tapping to kind of soften out some of those edges. Alright. And we can test it out too by removing our I know I'm kind of jumping around here. It's just how I kind of work. Like I said, I like to go from the bottom down. And earlier I had already done the arm, and I worked my way down to the wrist here. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to give some ROM to that left hand and see how it works. Hand left. And because it's one joint, it doesn't matter if we put solve as one item or not. So just do all directions and give it, see how it looks upon rotating. Alright, I can already see we're probably going to need some more influence on the upper area of that wrist. So it kind of blends a little bit better between that forearm. The forearm can move too, but because it looks like it's a short sleeve shirt, I don't think it's going to need to move all that much. So I'll go down to a down position. And I'll go back to painting mode. Select that object, paint. Let's go left hand. I'm sorry, let's go to left lower arm. Paint some more influence. It's very hard paint, so I want to bring down all my values. So let's go about 50 and 25. That's a little bit better feel. It's not so harsh. Okay. There we go. It's looking a little better now. Let's go ahead and apply, soften. So we're trying to get like an even spacing between our edge flow with all of our verts. There we go. And we got some flexibility coming in with our wrist. At the end of the day, the lower arm did take over more of that edge, but I just wanted to kind of show that if you do select vertices and you come back to the paint mode, any vertices you have selected, you will only be painting on those verts. You'll only be painting influence on that vert area, so everything else around will not be affected. It's a good way to isolate a lot of things. Instances like that would definitely, when it would come into play when you have to deal with things such as all of this hair here. Let me go to face. It's the same thing can be applied when working with the way you're selecting edges. You can select faces because I know all this hair I want to have influenced by the head for the game character. I'm going to go ahead and grow that with shift shift and push down on the period button or that bracket key to grow. And I want to go to component editor and I want to assign that to 100% of the hair. Oh, it's because I'm in face mode. Hold down control, you go right click and go to vertices, component editor, and we're going to go to the head. Click on the first one all the way down. Control shift and click the head to 1. Now that hair is not being influenced by anything else except for this head bone right here. We'll go ahead and get out of our vert select mode and go to object mode. It would definitely come in play. It'd be important too is when you start working on places such as belts, pouches, or anything else that's including this object to be part of its geometry. Like I'd have to do an ROM within the pelvis area. I'm just going to select one vert right now. Grow that selection to where it's all the way around. Or push it enough times where I believe it's grown. And then from there, when I go into painting, if it doesn't crash, okay. If I go into painting, I'll be able to control like what's being influenced here. So just like before, if I go into the skirt bones, I won't be able to do any influencing anywhere else except for objects that might be separated but are also included in part of the geometry. So just a couple more tidbits I wanted to give in for this video here. So I'm going to go ahead and continue painting out the rest of this character, and then in the next video we're going to go ahead and get the controls officially put on this character, unless I think of anything else I should have mentioned. So hopefully not, and I'll close it on the video from there.